One of the great topics of debate in the homestead and farm world when it comes to animals is what animal is right for your homestead, the chicken or the duck? Today's video we are going to be talking about which one is right for your homestead. I'm going to go over some commonly asked questions and things that you should know when deciding whether the duck or the chicken or both are perfect for your homestead. To start, for 90% of people that get chickens especially, they're getting them probably for the eggs. And there's nothing like a good farm fresh egg. And most chickens are pretty good layers, laying anywhere from 200 to 250 eggs per year, some even upwards of 300 a year. But what not a lot of people know actually is that ducks are very prolific layers. Ducks can go upwards of 300 eggs per year. And when you look at the eggs side by side, duck eggs are actually far larger. Looking at these two eggs here, we have an egg from a black copper Moran and an egg from a Welsh Harlequin duck. As you can see, the brown egg it's a lot smaller, but it's also a lot cleaner. That's the one thing with duck eggs is you're getting a bigger egg, but you're almost always going to be getting a dirtier egg. So they do require cleaning, whereas chicken eggs can be picked up and they're usually clean, ready to go right away. Speaking of cleaning, ducks and chickens clean themselves very differently. For a chicken, they're gonna scratch into this dirt here and they're gonna take what's called a dust bath. And for whatever reason, that's their preferred way of cleaning. But for ducks, you definitely need some sort of water for them because they get in there, they dive under, they spread then with the water, they spread their natural oils, and that's what kind of gives them coverage, gives them a little bit of protection, gives them a waterproofing to their feathers. And so ducks, if you're gonna have them, you have to have some sort of bath, body of water for them so that they can go and clean themselves in it. Chickens, they'll figure it out, they'll find some dirt, and they'll be having a heyday in that. There's a lot of questions as to which one does more damage to the property. And what I'll say on that is this: ducks are more messy, but chickens are more destructive. And what that looks like is ducks do what's called a surface grazing. So they're only gonna go to the surface level, maybe a little bit deeper to try and find some bugs, and that's gonna be it. Whereas chickens, they're going to scratch and scratch and scratch and dig down into the ground, which can be, depending on where it is, can be quite destructive. But ducks, they usually stay on the surface level. If there's a body of water, it's gonna be messy around there, but they're not going to dig like a chicken will dig. Ducks and chickens require a very similar brooding method, which is nice. So if they just have a heat lamp or one of those infrared heat pads, that's gonna be enough for both a duck and a chicken. But where they differ as far as temperature and temperature regulation and how well they handle different temperatures is ducks are far hardier than chickens. Here we live in zone 4 in Wisconsin, and so we have pretty cold winters, and the ducks fare much better during the winter than the chickens do. The chickens, you have to worry about frostbite on their combs and on their beaks and talons, whereas the ducks, they're pretty good at regulating themselves and figuring out when they need to get out of the cold, when they need to get out of the snow or wherever it is. Thankfully, when it comes to accommodations, you don't need to make a ton of adjustments for either one. As long as they have a roof over their head and they're blocked from the wind, especially in the winter, they're gonna be just fine. And as far as like farm animals go, ducks and chickens definitely require the least amount of space. It's awesome if you can get them out free ranging, but if they have at least a handful of square feet per bird, they'll technically be okay. But again, if you can free range them, more the better, because the eggs are better, it's healthier for the birds, and that's just where their natural habitat is. Here we have one of our hens, Gemma. She is a very, very broody chicken. We've never had to deal with that with ducks. But some chickens, all they want to do is sit on their eggs and be mama hens. One thing too to consider is, I would say ducks are generally more friendly than chickens. They are a little bit more okay, except for right now he's freaking out, but usually they're a little bit more okay with being held and they're not gonna be aggressive with you. Chickens, on the other hand, generally they're not your friend. Sometimes they can be depending on the breed, but they just kind of want to do their own thing. They don't want to be held, and they definitely can be more aggressive, especially if you have an aggressive rooster. Another thing to consider when looking at ducks or chickens is which one is going to be more predator proof. We have found that the chickens are better at defending themselves against predators. And by defending themselves, I usually mean flying away. Now, they're all technically flightless birds, but they can fly, maybe 10 feet above the ground. And sometimes that's enough just to get away from a predator. Ducks, they don't have that same ability. Most ducks are completely flightless. And so when there's a predator in the area or an aerial predator, it's really tough for them to get away. Fortunately, we've lost more ducks to predators than chickens. And I do believe that's because that they're just not as good at getting away from them as the chickens are. However, their waddle is pretty funny when they waddle away. So there's that. Now, for the other big reason that people buy ducks or chickens would be for meat. We have not butchered any ducks on our property, but I have had duck meat before, and I would say that duck meat compared to chicken is going to be far fattier. It's going to be dark meat, whereas chicken you might have white or dark meat. And it's got a little more acquired taste, I would say. It's kind of hard to describe. But if you eat chicken, I don't need to explain that, you know what chicken tastes like. Duck meat is definitely more unique than chicken meat. So that's something to consider when thinking about ducks or chickens. Let's talk about poop. Ducks and chickens, they both poop a ton. And one thing that is really unique though to ducks versus the chickens is ducks, their poop is less hot. And what do I mean by that? Their poop actually has less nitrogen in it than chicken manure, and so it's ready to go be used as fertilizer far faster than chickens are, which I think is very interesting. And ducks actually tend to poop a lot more than chickens do. You might be wondering, okay, why the heck are you talking about chicken and duck poop? Well, chicken and duck poop, the reality is it's one of the best fertilizers for your garden, for your crops, for anything that you're trying to grow. Chicken manure though does require more time to break down, to decompose, to cool off, if you will, than duck manure. So if you're looking to buy an animal purely for the purpose of giving you that great garden gold, ducks actually might be a better option for that. Ducks versus chickens, which one would I choose? Well, the lame and boring answer is if you can do both, I would do both. I think they both bring their own unique benefits, characteristics, and definitely their own unique personalities that it is worth it to have both of them. But if you could only choose one, if we could only choose one, which one would we have? At the end of the day, I would have chickens over ducks. I think they are far easier to take care of. I think they require less input to take care of than ducks. With ducks, you need to constantly be changing out their water. If you want to use their eggs, you have to clean their eggs fairly regularly. And I think that chickens just are kind of the easiest and obviously the biggest gateway animal into owning your own farm animals and having some sort of production animal. If you can do both because they are great. But if you have to choose one, I would go with chickens. They are probably the perfect farm animal, and every single person, in my opinion, could have a chicken and would be better off for it. Even if you live maybe in suburbia and you can't have a ton, even if you have a few, 1, 2, 3 hens that you can get a few eggs, you can give them some compost and they turn that over and make that into some nice soil. It's worth doing, it's worth having, and they're easy enough to take care of. They don't require a ton of space, that why not, right? But I'm just one guy on the internet with a camera. What do you think? Would you rather have ducks or chickens? Do you have either of them, or do you have both? Let me know below what your answer to the great debate of ducks versus chickens is. My name is Austin, and this is the Cypress and Sparrow Homestead. We'll see you in the next video. Peace.